the gear?
Well,
How do we push it? What do we want to?
Gotcha.
So we have a plant that's in stress. Now we have a plant that has had that rain, but had a lot of those rains, and it's cruising. It's cruising.
Yeah.
How are we going to see above this in the combine cab?
Okay. Well, you were just talking about your sons.
Yeah.
And when you're, I don't know, you can't really tell your sons. Well, maybe you can. Maybe your sons are really good, but I don't know how young they are. But I have a feeling that you can't tell them when it's time to eat. Maybe you have to feed them when they start screaming. Is that?
Say you tell them, you can be like, hey, Mom said get to the table. And it's a yes, ma'am, or yes, ma'am.
So the corn plant, right, or the bean, the babies are, and they really are the babies. It's the next generation. So
Yes.
that little seed that's in the pod, or that grain, multiple grains on the corn ear, that is a baby. There's just 1,000 of them potentially on an ear, and 4 of them potentially in a pod. So these babies, they're going to eat. Their mom is going to feed the babies that are screaming the loudest. You know, the babies that are hungry, they're going to cry. So what we want to do on corn or bean or wheat or anything is make the babies cry louder, because the screaming kid gets the most food, the most photosynthate.
Most attention.
The most attention, absolutely. So
Interesting.
we want to increase the source to sink relationship, create a bigger delta between
For
the leaf
channeling nutrients.
to channel the nutrients in.
Okay.
So we like to use different micronutrients to do this.
Okay.
There's a whole hormone profile that also goes along with it. But the bulk of the work is done with boron and molybdenum.
Okay.
So boron...
Does it have to be paired with nitrogen?
So nitrogen is always helpful because nitrogen is going to trick that plant into opening up. We use nitrogen to basically bore out the engine, and it especially on a good year, and it'll help your root tips flush. You'll have a lot of openings. You'll create more pressure, like literally water pressure. It's called turgor pressure. And you'll create more pressure in the plant so you can move more nutrients.
So like a melted urea run foliar.
Yeah, we like a melted urea foliar. We do
paired with boron and moly.
Yeah, we do a boron molybdenum product that we put 3% amino nitrogen into it.
Well, that's what I'm getting. If we're going to pair this with something,
yeah,
we pair it like with a foliar melted urea running the plane.
Yeah, and running through the plane, that's another good one. I think I love plane applications of urea.
Sure.
But honestly, we're getting there a little late. I wish you guys would do it a little earlier.
Really?
I would probably put it in at tassel.
Okay.
And maybe not in those silk
Not
layers.
waiting a while.
Yeah, I tend to like the nitrogen, because your nitrogen uptake that late in the season is rather slow. The key
You look at the chart,
exponential,
it does drop off.
and it's the chart. I mean, I love the chart,
Okay.
and I know the chart you're talking about. That's
Yeah.
how I know. I love this paper. I've read it so many times, and it's probably one of the most groundbreaking papers that we've seen today.
Sure.
Fred Below and his guys out there in Illinois. But him and his students, they actually measured the patterns of all the different nutrient uptakes and timings. Now, but what's really most important about that chart, it's not the number, the level, it's the slope of the line.
Right.
So where that line is steep, you have rapid uptake. And where the line is shallow, you have slower uptake. You still have uptake.
Sure.
But it's a slower rate.
Gotcha.
So I always see a response from flying on urea, even if it's not melted. We'll fly on dry urea.
Sure.
Let's say if you got a wet year, or you got pivot or something like that, and I always see a good response from that.
Okay.
But I think it's a little late. I would time it a little earlier.
So more tassel stage.
I'd probably hit tassel. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
Kind of that fungicide
That
timing.
fungicide timing that a lot of guys are
Yeah.
running. Okay.
But source to sink, right? To make the baby scream louder so that it gets fed more.
Okay. And then opening the channel for the moving nutrients to it.
Well, yeah, that's the nitrogen side.
Yes.
So, but the boron is what makes the baby scream.
Got it.
So grain screams when you put some boron on it. we talked a little bit about Pac-Man just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
So all the hormones have an enzyme that eat them. Because what's hormone that can't be regulated? We know this one. It's a trick question.
Herbicide, right?
It's a herbicide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So think of your phenoxys, like 2,4-D, dicamba, things like that. Those are actually unregulated auxins. So it makes the plant grow itself to death if it can't manage that active ingredient. But the natural auxins always have a check. So auxin in plants like indole acetic acid, IAA. Mm-hmm. Then for every IAA, there's an IAA oxidase. And the oxidase is the enzyme that chews it up and keeps it in check. Mm-hmm. So when you apply boron, it kills that Pac-Man. And it at least depresses Pac-Man so it can't eat all the auxin. Mm-hmm. So what you get is a jump in auxin in the plant. Well, the plant's moving things source to sink to the screaming baby in semi-trucks. And in the back, in the trailer, that's your sugars. And driving the truck, that's an auxin, an IAA. Mm-hmm. So when you apply boron, you get that increase in auxin, and then it pulls more of these trucks into the babies. So you're able to get plumper, fatter grains, and you're able to keep those grains from denting.
When in soybeans?
Soybean is a whole, soybean's a great crop, right? But it's like the bastard crop.
So corn
here.
at tassel.
Corn.
Or around there as much as you can.
Right around tassel's a good timing. You know, corn's very determinate.
When would you stop? When would be like, okay, this is too late, doesn't make sense?
So go to bean. Bean, honestly, it's your season, and it can grow for a really long time.
Yes.
Here in the U.S., we're making an application at R2. Give or take is going to be a great time to do that to a bean.
Okay.
You get into Brazil and South America.
The same boron moly?
They'll do a boron moly right then at R2, but they'll also do a finishing application, and I've seen beans respond in that R5.
Okay.
I've seen recommendations into the R9. I debate that.
Sure.
You know, they're starting to really brown on me. Once the tissue's brown, you know, it's not moving anything anymore. Mm-hmm. But if you have green tissue on that plant, it's not too late.
Okay.
So you want to do a boron molybdenum application there because the boron is going to help bring the trucks to the screaming baby, and molybdenum increases another plant hormone, and that's called abscisic acid. And that's the hormone that puts everything dormant, sends everything to sleep.
So it would slow that down.
So it brings the truck in, and it stops that new trifoliate.
I see.
It tells mom, hey, the season's really over. You got a lot of ABA in here. It's not time to grow a new leaf.
Finish what you have.
Yeah, it tells it to finish. So that's your signal later in the season. And on beans, I've seen very late applications actually work.
Got it.
And then the nitrogen just makes the highway bigger so you can move more trucks.
Got it. Okay. Guys, if you've liked the information that you've seen so far, go ahead and check out the full-length podcast on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe there. It's also on all the major podcast platforms. We're constantly dropping info and more content on all the social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Check it out for a lot more content.